So, in this episode, I want to talk about something that we all face, but few of us embrace, and that is discomfort. You have it there. We all go through things that are uncomfortable for us, and nobody likes it. And depending on where you are on your level of discomfort, things are going to be uncomfortable. So, whether you're somebody who's just starting out and you have to do certain things in your business, in your personal life, or whether you're a veteran and you're looking to continuously look to grow, you are going to have to get uncomfortable. It's just one of those things that you need. It's a prerequisite to growth because by you being and doing things that are going to be out of your comfort zone, that is the growth that's going to happen. And we need to try to figure out how is it we can start to apply it to our lives. So whether we're giving a big presentation, whether we're going to have a difficult conversation with somebody that we might not want to be have, where we've been pushing off for a while, or maybe it's just something that we want to do that's new, we have to be able to see how is it we can start to embrace this growth and this discomfort in order to become that person to level us up. Because one of the things that I love discussing is this idea that it's not about who what you get in life, it's about who you become in life. Jim Rohn says that. It was learned a lot of his stuff early on, and that's something that I take with me because I think it's one of those areas, it's a playing field that we all have an equal battleground on. It's something that to me personally makes sense just in this whole thing called life, that regardless of where you are on a societal level, economical level, if we can start to just see how does we can level up ourselves, then we're not going to be comparing ourselves to other people. We're not going to be looking at other things, at other people, and taking certain actions. And all we have to start to do is start to figure out where is it that I am right now and how is it that I can level up my game. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was recently speaking to somebody and she told me that she did something that she was extremely new to her. And she was so uncomfortable. And yet she put herself in the situation. And not just that, she ended up rocking it. And whether you end up rocking it or not rocking it, the win sometimes is going through the thing. So, for example, there was one time I had this business idea. And of course, you have to go to different people to ask them their ideas, or perhaps that they can invest in your idea. And there's this one guy that I really wanted to go over to. And I was so nervous, and I used to see him in synagogue all the time. And I used to I had an opportunity. It was quiet. There's nobody around, and I had my chance, and yet I wasn't able to pull myself together until I was able to reframe the whole situation that I was going through. See, for me, I was thinking the win is if I get him to say, "Hey, I want to invest in your idea." But guess what? That leap was forcing me to not take any action. And for weeks, I was not going over to this gentleman to ask him my idea. However, once I framed it to the win is just asking him, whether he says yes or no, that's his situation. That's his problem. I can't control him. That is the win. Then I had the ability to win in my terms. So I could play a different game totally, which I did. And once I had that frame, that's when I won the game. And if you're wondering, did he say yes or no? He totally said no. Okay, so don't think like he even said yes. But for me, it was the massive win that I was able to get myself to put it out there. And now I know I don't have to waste so much time and energy every time I see this guy to think, should I go over to him? Should I not go over to him? I'm sure a lot of people have that when it comes to dating, when it comes to even seeing different people about certain job opportunities that they want for themselves. We have to be able to put ourselves in a situation to allow ourselves to see that success. And by putting ourselves in that situation, that's what's going to really help us. And this woman who ended up putting herself in a situation and she succeeded, I was so impressed. I'm like, okay, I got to speak about this because this is growth. And I was so proud of her, even though it's not like, I don't know, I guess I can be proud of other random people, right? So I was so proud of her that I said I needed to make this specific podcast. And if we could just start to reframe that the discomfort is you growing, then that could really help us step into it. Because so many people, like I was when I was trying to get the win or the loss, when I was going over to or thinking about it in my head for weeks to go over to this gentleman to ask him if he wanted to invest in my idea or not. So I kept playing in my mind the win or loss is whether he says yes or no. And what we have to realize is that we have to start to switch it a little bit. Sometimes the win is just getting into the game. And as long as we keep moving forward and as long as we don't give up, then guess what? Then we have the ability to win the game. We have to start to set goals. And I remember my coach one time told me this because I was freaking out about specific goals that I had. And there was one goal that I was pretty ambitious. I'm like, I want to be able to have 1 million subscribers on my YouTube channel. And he ends up looking at me. He's like, Bennett, you're setting the wrong goal. I'm like, What do you mean? Like, I want to have 1 million YouTube subscribers. Like, that's a great goal. And he's like, no, because you're setting a goal that you can't control. You can't get 1 million people to subscribe to your stuff. So the goal's wrong. He said you can create great content, which then gets people to subscribe to your channel. But that's the goal is then not the 1 million subscribers. The goal is the content that you're creating. How many pieces of content do you need to create a week? How often do you have to look to get better at the content that you are creating? What are going to be the KPIs that you're going to try to hit? And the same thing happens in sales all the time. What are the numbers, right? It's all a numbers game. If we could just start to look in our situation, in our specific goals, what is it that we can control? That's a totally different game, because then we have more control over it. We don't realize that there's so little we do have control over that we focus on everything that we can't control. And if we could just focus on the pieces that we can, showing up every day, doing our work, not getting distracted, taking the action that's necessary, then we have a better chance of seeing the success that we want. So people are setting specific goals, and it's like one of the things, like when people want to invest in real estate, and I work with them on that. So they want to invest in real estate, which is amazing. Okay. I'm a big proponent of real estate. Then all of a sudden, people are going to be setting, I want to have this many units, or I want to have this much, asset under management, or whatever it might be. And it's like, well, what do I need to do today? How many brokers do I need to call today? Like, that's literally the boring part. It's like, how many brokers do I have to get in touch with? Like, what are the banks in the lending situations that I need to try to figure out, that I have to set up beforehand? So if I do get a deal, I'll be able to move forward quicker. Those are the questions we need to start to ask ourselves. And so many people don't recognize that, and they let the negativity affect them. And all it does is just brings it back. It's to hold them. And we have to be able to move forward and not allow that discomfort to really hold us back from everything that's going on. So when we are asking ourselves, well, what is it we could do? How do we get ourselves in a situation? We have to try to figure out, how can I get myself to step up in those moments? And what's interesting is that sports psychologists talk about this idea, how I think I heard this first from Dr. Nate Zinsser, who is a sports mindset coach. Yeah, I think that makes sense. He's a sports mindset coach. He was Eli Manning's mindset coach. So if you're a New York Giant fan like I am, we are very appreciative of Dr. Nate Zinsser. And Dr. Nate Zinsser talks about this idea, how when athletes are stepping up to a big game, how is it that they perform? How does a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes do the thing that they're going to do? A LeBron James? I don't know, you figure out whatever sport you want to figure out. And what they realized is that when people or athletes, or top athletes really, get into a game, what they have to realize is that their mindset is going to be one of the most important things. That they have to be able to put themselves in a situation where they know that they can succeed. And not just that, when they start to get that feeling inside, that tingling feeling, that they just start to think about the possibilities of what might be going on, they have to learn how to translate that feeling. And what I mean by that is that when we get that feeling, there's two ways we could translate it. On the one hand, many people, the common people, will translate those things as nerves, those feelings as nerves. So you get those jitters before a big presentation. I'm nervous. You get those, you get a little antsy before you're about to speak to somebody that you're intimidated by. I'm nervous. But what we really have to do is, and what athletes do, is that they try to translate that as excitement, because they understand that by them doing that thing they're nervous about, that is them growing, that is them becoming somebody. And they could translate that, and internally, that feeling of excitement and nerves is really the same. It's just the way that we're perceiving it is totally different. So what we have to start to do is, how is it that we're translating it? And most of the time, we're just reacting to a situation. So for example, when I have my intramural basketball games and I get nervous before the games, and it's a very silly thing to get nervous about, because there's like only 6 teams. It's like this men's league. It's like not anything crazy, but yet again, like I take it a little bit seriously, and I want to be able to look to succeed. So when I start to get nervous or start to get that feeling, I try telling myself, no, Bennett, this is a situation where we need to start to get excited. And some might say, well, Bennett, that's so silly. It's like a basketball game. It doesn't really matter. Like, you're not making the NBA. Like, I know that. I acknowledged that years ago, even though I still think there's like a little bit of hope, but probably not. But what I recognize is that this is a situation, and this is why I love it so much. And this is why I love sports, honestly, because sports is like a micro situation of a real life situation. So I can manufacture a situation in a sports event that is going to be very similar to a real life event. So that feeling of me being able to step up to present or to perform in a basketball game is going to be very similar to me needing to get up and present on stage. So if I can start to work in one area of my life, then I could also take that and work it in a different area of life. And to me, that is something that's very powerful. So when we are going through things, so even though in the grand scheme of things, like these basketball games don't matter, but one of the parts that I do like about it is that no, it's like there's resilience. The other team's going to score. Things aren't going to go your way. The referees are going to, not blow the whistle towards your team. Like whatever it might be, there's going to be so many things that we could learn from it. And that's why if we can start to change our perspective and just look at things a little bit differently, then we have this ability to make things happen. So now we have to ask ourselves, so Bennett, that's amazing, but like, now what? What are we supposed to do now? Like, I need specific tactical answers that I can start to do to make sure that when things do get uncomfortable, that I can start to take the action. So here are a few things. So number one, Mel Robbins talks about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're not familiar with that, there's this idea that we, in our prefrontal cortex, all the good science over there, you can listen to her. She talks about it all the time. There's this idea that when somebody counts down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they have a moment where they have a little bit more courage than they would otherwise, and they can start to take an action. So your alarm goes off in the morning, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you end up getting yourself out of bed. And it's a really powerful thing. It's a small thing you can start to do. You still got to take the action. You got to still push yourself, but you're giving yourself a specific moment to be able to take that action. Because if we can start to tell ourselves not to procrastinate, if we can start to take specific action when we know it's uncomfortable, that is the best thing. And that's why a lot of people say, eat the frog in the morning. You ever heard that idea where you want to do the most difficult things in the morning when you have the most energy and you have the most willpower to be doing that? Because at the end of the day, when things are tired and you're like not able to get in conversation with somebody and, get possibly tick somebody off and like get into like this whole, everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? Those conversations that you don't want to get into. And they always have to happen like right before bed. And you're just like, come on, I just want to go to sleep. Like we can deal with this tomorrow. And it's like, no, we have to have it now. And what we have to realize is that if we don't procrastinate, then the things are going to stay small, because so many times, so many things in our own personal lives that we start to get scared of, that we start to just build up in our minds. All that's really happening is that the longer we wait, the bigger this thing gets. How many times have you done something after waiting days or weeks even, and it wasn't as bad as you thought it was? You know what? Some of the 20-year-olds that I work with, so one of the things that they love doing is procrastinating, whether it's their college classes or whether it's reaching out to different possible job opportunities, whatever it might be. They procrastinate, and there's this one student I was working with. And there was this guy that he'd been wanting to reach out for, I think, for years, like literally years. And it wasn't even like somebody crazy. It was like his friends. It was his sister's friend, and yet he wasn't able to take the action. And then finally, when he was able to do it, he ended up getting a meal with the guy, like a coffee with the guy. He ended up spending a good amount of time, and that guy hooked him up with 2 other guys that are going to possibly like help him out. And it was something that I was so impressed with, because and I wanted to show it to him. I wanted to say, hey, let's look at this, not just at this situation, but like what happened here. There was this guy that we knew about that we could have reached out to years ago, and yet we didn't, and it just delayed for so long. And what we have to start to do is put ourselves in a situation so the next time something like this comes up, or we have a little bit of an opportunity, let's take it, because there's going to be always opportunities. The question is, when are you going to take it and when are you not? And for so many people, just constantly just procrastinate because they don't want to be able to take that action. And the longer you procrastinate, the harder it's going to be. And guess what? That rubber band, that Band-Aid needs to get ripped off. The next thing we need to ask ourselves is, what is the one thing we need to do right now? And I think that is a powerful question, because for so many people, they're so overwhelmed by everything that needs to happen, right? There's an uncomfortable conversation that they have to have. And they're just thinking about like the result of the conversation. But what we have to realize is like, no, what's the first thing? Like, what are the ideas that I need to start to think about? How can I start to formulate my ideas so when I do have a conversation, I could sound coherent, I could sound just like a normal person, right? What are the tools that I can start to use that can just help me be able to have this conversation? What's the mindset I need to be in while having this conversation, so I don't have to get so triggered? Like, what are the things I need to prep for the conversation? Whatever it might be, you have things that you can start to do. And we take everything that needs to happen, and we don't realize that, no, they're just micro steps along the way that we can start to do in order to get to the place that we want to get to. And as long as we can start to figure out what those steps are, then we can start to move forward and make things happen. And the last idea that I think happened to me more recently is that recognizing that sometimes inaction is the best action. For many times of my life, and more recently, I was moving 100 miles per hour. I was moving so fast. And because I was moving so fast, like I never had a break. And every time I had like a moment, I couldn't not be doing something quote unquote productive. And what I realized is I was getting burnt out fast, number one. And number two is I ended up taking off a couple of nights one week because usually I'm working at night also after the kids are sleeping. And I realized, okay, this week I'm just gonna chill. Just for 2, 3 nights, I'm just gonna chill. And I chilled. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Not just because I'm chilling, but then also because the rest of my day, the next days that after I was able to just like take it a little bit easier at nighttime, I was so much more rejuvenated. I was able to work so much better. I had such a more clear mind, and I was like, wait a second, but I'm doing less things. So, but we have to realize is that sometimes not taking the action is the biggest action, and it will warn you if you are a person who is very good at procrastinating, don't do this, right? It seems like the exact opposite. But if you are the person who takes so much action that you're just like nonstop, this is going to be for you. That you have to be able to not take action sometimes, and that could be the best way for you to be able to move forward. And if we could just recognize that there's all going to be risky, everything we do is going to be risky because the thing that you want to take action in and the thing that's uncomfortable, that is going to be very risky to do. But guess what? It's also risky not to do. Because if you don't do it, what's going to happen? Who are you going to become if you don't do it? And I think there's so many people, they don't recognize that they have this ability to be able to constantly be growing and becoming somebody. And they could do it in a systemized way. And we could put ourselves in situations to become a better person, to do bigger things. And all we have to ask ourselves is, what are those steps I need to be doing? How can I not procrastinate anymore? Maybe what are the steps that I don't need to be taking? And by recognizing that, we can start to shift our perspective and start to say, hey, you know what? It's not about it being uncomfortable. It's about me growing in the moment. Then all of a sudden we have this ability to make things happen in our life. And for so many of us, we get so scared, and it is so scary, trust me. But if we can learn to just manage the discomfort and then grow from it and become somebody, we're going to constantly be leveling ourselves up to be able to do so much more. And guess what? It's on us, because nobody else is going to come to save us. And it's on our backs to be able to become the people that we can be and show who it is we can become.